to Corinne's Picks, a show that celebrates great works of art and the careers of remarkable artists. Today we have Kofi Obuobi, and he's from Ghana, and we're exploring his works and trying to save and capture ancient works of African mass. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Corinne. Appreciate it.
I know that you are doing great work in the metaverse and with NFTs. You're also the founder of Innovation Hub, a
Right,
center that provides opportunities for creatives. So can you
right.
tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, thanks. So let me start with a creative hub because I'm really passionate about that. Growing up, I I never had opportunity. I had some opportunity, but it wasn't really intense or something that I could really build upon. I I couldn't have people I would ask, direction from. Um, we are quite of a big family, so um, it was difficult to always get information from my dad about how the world was moving and how things were going, and even the people who were around me at that time, um, there were people that also were not really versed in um, innovation and the whole disruptive technology space where new ideas come in to take over old ones and bring new opportunities to new people. And I think I was privileged to be blessed with that kind of mind that is able to pay attention to growth. So I made so many mistakes, and most importantly, I didn't have people I could ask certain questions that needed really good answers from in terms of art and what I can do with art and design. And most places that we grew up in, artists were seen as those who were going to end up, by the roadside and do signages, for like direction to this place and that place. And so we couldn't see how big art and design could be. So Innovation Hub, right from when I completed um, high school, you know um, I decided that one day I'll set up a space where young people could come in and ask any question, especially when they are artists or designers or they are in the tech space. They could just come and ask questions and even use the internet, because that was also another thing. So that is how the idea of the Innovation Hub came. At that time, it wasn't called Innovation Hub. I didn't know the name I'll call it, but I remember so well that I watched X-Men and I saw Professor Charles Xavier's setting of where he gave opportunities to the mutants, to nurture their talent. So I knew I was going to have something of that sort, a space where creatives could come and be guided, So that was it. That was the idea. So fast forward, after more than 2 decades, I've been able to, create such a space where we can build from, to have a much huge space to help the community and the continent at large. So that's with the Innovation Hub.
I think it's a really profound thing that you're doing, because we know that the world today is driven by big ideas. The internet was a big idea. The cell
Hmm.
phone was a big idea.
Right,
NFTs. So, it drives the economy now. These ideas have changed the world. So the idea
right,
of Africans having a bigger footprint in this arena through the Innovation Hub is
right,
really profound.
right. Yeah. Even up till now, um, I had opportunity to get to Germany because of my work, and when I came back, I was able to bring the 3D printers that I was using there. So immediately I'm going to teach some few people how the whole system works, because that's also another emerging tech which is really disruptive, especially with rapid prototyping. There's a part of your machine that it's broken and you need the part, and the manufacturer probably is not ready to get it, or it might take a long time to get it. You can just 3D print that. And of course, you see how buildings are being printed with a 3D printer, and so many other things in jewelry and in dentistry and all that. So it's really a great thing, and I'm happy that been able to get here. It's not a huge place, but it's quite okay to build up from there.
Can you tell us about the project that you have with African masks? Tell us a little bit about what inspired this project.
Right. So I was, I think 2019, I was graduating from school, and then I met with Professor McLeod. He was from the University of Glasgow, and he was speaking about restitution of stolen African artifacts, and the importance of the fact that these works hold a lot of information, even the techniques that were used to execute them. And then unfortunately, these are in museums where they may never be returned, right? And even the descendants of these people that made these great pieces of works, which are now seen as art, may never be able to see what those that came before them did, their ancestors, so to speak. And these are things that young people can study, right? And so he was talking about the fact that there was going to be a new technology where young creatives would be able to create 3D spaces where artists can, in a way, digitally display, these artifacts, which are in museums, which will never be returned. And I was graduating that day. I was listening to Professor McLeod, and I was like, I think he's talking to me, because I was already printing African masks on T-shirts, but I wasn't checking the backstory. So he made me go back to do research, first of all from the university library, and then from online and other resources that I was able to get from his team, to look into which masks were, stolen, and then put them out as NFTs. But I also made sure each mask carried a story that it came with. As in, every mask, there was a reason why every mask was made. It wasn't just made for art purposes, even though some of them, almost all of them, had that aesthetic value or had that outlier kind of delivery in terms of sculpture, right? But it was also functional aside it being aesthetic. So that triggered that. And so when I got into the NFT space, even though I'm a designer too, and I have interest in other design areas like fashion design and product design, it wasn't, I could have easily gone into that space, but I decided to use the design to solve problems in terms of creating artworks with it, and solving a problem in terms of digitally restituting these artifacts that have been lost from the continent.
Tell us a little bit more about your participation in that NFT arena, but also the metaverse. This is the second time I've tried to interview you, and I think you had an art exhibit in the metaverse during that time. Tell us a little bit about your interests in, the metaverse and NFTs and that whole arena.
Right. So the whole idea is from listening to Professor McLeod that day, and I think it was on the 10th of November 2019. He was talking about the fact that the access to these galleries was also kind of like obscure. Unless you get to the galleries physically or you pay to get into those spaces, you'll never know the works that were there. So he made mention of a time when, very soon, which I think is now, where everywhere in the world can log on to, in the metaverse, or like a space where they can move from their own phone and have that experience. So I understood what he was saying, because at that time I was also working with a company in the UK where, because then that went into the lockdown. That was 2020. They were creating fashion products and even clothing, and displaying them. And we're thinking about having a fashion show in a 3D space where 3D models were going to catwalk the clothing and clothing accessories, because the companies were locked down. Vuitton, every company was on lockdown, so most of the boutiques were closed down, but people had internet. So I understood what he was saying. So that made me want to have exhibitions on crypto voxels, which is like a metaverse, and then on cyber. So that was what triggered, me going into that area.
Okay, so we have 3 minutes until we go to a commercial break, but I just wanted to show one of your images so that people can see what we're talking about. Maybe you can explain a little bit about the first mask.
So that's a mask from a tribe in Ghana called the Akan people. It's called the True Love Mask, or in Akan or in Twi we call it Odopa, True Love. So this mask, the facial expression is also found on other sculpture pieces, and it represents true love. So normally some Akan communities will have this mask in their homes to remind themselves, of love amongst the family members. So that is for this mask. And so I decided to give it that extra touch and this kind of surreal effect, because that is what you can't really find in most of the masks that you have today.
And how did you go about researching that information?
Yes, of course, from the university library, and then online, and sometimes I interview people that I'm able to get close to.
Okay, so we have about 30 seconds. We're going to commercial break. We'll be back in a few, and we'll look at some more images.
Sure.
Kids!
I don't want to talk about it.
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 Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency.
Kids, you all right?
This family's prepared. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan. Go to nyc.gov/readyny or call 311 for more information.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I had something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Corinne's Picks. We're interviewing Kofi Obuobi, and we are talking about his works in the 3D, I guess, arena, the NFT, and his work as a designer. And we started looking at some of his masks. Welcome back to Corinne's Picks. We have us artist and designer Kofi Obuobi. He's an innovative designer. He's working in the 3D realm. He's doing NFTs. He's a shoe designer. We were looking at some of his masks and discussing some of the cultural background behind some of his works. So let's look at some more of his masks and see if we can learn a little bit more.
Right. So this is a mask from a tribe from Burkina Faso. Oh, sorry, Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast is on the west of Ghana, and in Ghana we have the Akan tribe, and their mask was what you showed earlier. Now, at a point in time in history of Ghana when it wasn't even called Ghana, the people who are Akans moved from Ghana to Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire, and these tribes carried some of the culture from where they already were found here in Ghana, modern day Ghana, with them. And one of the tribes called the Bedu people. Another tribe is the Baole tribe. They are all Akans. So this is a Bedu mask, and it often comes in twos. The one on the right is a male, is for a male performer, and then the one on the left is for a female. So the masks are used in twos, male and a female, and they are one of the largest masks on the African continent. So it needed really strong people to put them on. And so because it created a kind of pride in the community, the French at that time who were colonizing the Ivorians did not like it. So they tried everything they could to make them stop having ceremonies with the Bedu mask. So it's a symbol of pride and self-belief.
So how easy was it, like how easy or difficult was it to like reconstruct this information? Like how prevalent is this information among just the average person? Is there an awareness of earlier skills or knowledge about these masks? Are these masks still even in people's homes?
Yeah, it's you can find them with the tribe. Some of them are still practicing. Some of them they were forced to stop, having these ceremonies. So you don't have them there, but some do still practice them. But on the larger scale, like this knowledge being available for everybody in Ivory Coast to know, and even on the African continent, is not really common. So the idea is also to get people to know about this.
And how well received have this body of work been?
It's been excellent. Like I've had so many people now appreciating African masks. You see, because of colonialism, most of us in Africa were looking on with masks as something which was pagan, right? Because of also Christianity and things like that. So most people grew up being afraid of African masks. But when I began to do the research, and a lot of people got to know that the masks were not just made for scaring people, right? Of course, there are masks to scare people, we'll get to that particular mask. But there are also masks for agricultural purposes. There are masks for initiation rites. So there were reasons why the masks were made. So I got people to realize that, so the masks were not just to scare people, or to, something to worship pagans or things like that, right? People understood and embraced it, and now people even want them on their t-shirts, like I was originally doing.
Okay, so let's look at the next mask. Maybe you could give us a little bit more background.
Yeah, this is my favorite mask. It's a sun mask. It means success. It's from a tribe called the Boa people in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is on the north of Ghana. And this mask is used when they are harvesting their crops. When there's so much crops, they are happy. So this mask comes out. It represents the sun, so it looks like the sun, you know. So it was called the sun mask.
Yeah, this is also my favorite as well. I've seen a lot of masks that look similar to this as well.
Nice.
What are some of the challenges that you face in creating this work?
Yeah, so because of my product design background, the software we learned in school was Rhino 3D. And Rhino is for precision modeling. You know, it's for really precision model because it uses the NURBS platform, or it uses, you know, you build models with splines. So it takes a long time, sometimes a week or two, to model one mask. Sometimes a month. If the mask is really intricate, it like a month. Sometimes 2 months, because sometimes it's difficult to remodel the whole thing from scratch like I do, and you know, put them in this form. So that's the difficulty. So I'm working towards that. I'm moving to Blender to see if I'll be able to model faster. But at the same time, I have to make sure I don't compromise on quality. So those are the things I'm working on currently.
So you're modeling it as a digital image
in a 3D
digital
software.
art. But how do you transfer that to the 3D printing? Is it the same image, or do you have to redo it?
Yeah, so it's the same model, but for every 3D printing job, the 3D model has to be closed. So it has to be airtight, so to speak, before the 3D printer can read it. So you make sure there are no open parts in the 3D model. So the one I use for NFT, if I have to 3D print that, then it's going to take me like another week to prepare it, if it's a really intricate mask, to prepare it for 3D print and convert the files to a file format that is readable to the 3D printer, which is called G-code, right? So that is what happens. So that takes another time to be able to do that.
Parts,
come again?
When you talk about open parts, what are you going to?
So let's say, you see, a typical mask is thick. It is not 2D like paper, right? It is not flat as you see. It's 3D. It's solid. It has length, breadth, and height, right? So in the software, you have to, in the 3D software, you have to, because you draw in a 3D space that has the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis, you have to draw and make sure this product you're modeling in 3D has all these properties, because that is the same information the 3D printer picks and prints. It's the X, Y, Z coordinates at which points in time on the 3D printer. So that's what basically happens. So if there's an open part, the 3D printer cannot understand what you mean. Let's say this is supposed to be a polygon, but it's open. It wouldn't understand what to print in that open part. So it has to be closed. Everywhere has to be closed. It's a bit technical, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope I'm being able to explain well.
Okay. Is there one more image? Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a Dogon mask from the Dogon people from Mali. The Dogon are one of the really iconic cultures on the African continent, because they were seeing the Sirius star B and even A with their own eyes, even before Galileo invented the telescope. Nobody could see it with their own eyes. They were seeing it with their own eyes, and they had ceremonies. So during the ceremonies, they brought out these masks to perform, and they call their masks Kanaga masks.
So what are your next steps with this project? Where do you see this going?
Yeah, I spoke with Dr. Kelly. I think he's the Black business community. I think it was just last week. We are looking into, I'm working on the next set of masks, but we want to get some young people to paint the masks, you know, after I render them in 3D and put them into NFT. So that's the next level, and we are planning on how best we can, you know, impact the community once again. But this time we want, you know, young people to be painting the masks and, you know, be telling the stories about every single mask, because people are also excited about the fact that they go to do their DNA test and they find out they are a Marca Soninke person from Mauritania. They are happy, and then they want to see the Marca Soninke mask, right? And they check their DNA, and they realize they are from the Lega tribe. They want to see the Muminia Lega mask. So that's the thing. So we want to had a discussion with him and thought it was a great idea. He is also an artist, a very prolific artist, to see how we can move this project to the next level.
I think it's worth mentioning to the public also that, you sell these NFTs and the profits, 50% of the profits go to the innovation hub. So you're actually, you're instead of just totally benefiting, you're actually trying to spread your wealth to this project that you have.
I think the line was a bit breaking. Can you say that again?
I'm saying that it was worth mentioning that as an artist, you sell your work, but you're also donating half of the proceeds to the innovation hub to really build this project to benefit your community.
Right. Like I was saying earlier, it's difficult for young people to get people to talk to. We're in that space, so it took us a long time to develop our craft. There were a few people to talk to, so we've always wanted to have a space where at least a young person could come in and talk to you about what they want to do, and you can guide them or give them software, or they can even you can buy a tutorial for them, because you know how the syllabus in the universities and even our secondary schools are getting old, and it's difficult to change the whole syllabus to match how technology is moving. So I believe strongly those of us in that space who are kind of like outliers in the educational system, trying to bring to keep track of tech as they happen and give it to the young people, we are in a very important space to do that. So the need for like a hub or a space where young people could just sit and talk. I have like
thank you very much for coming on our show. We have about 1 second left. Thank you. Hopefully we can talk some more and explore some more about your work and what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Corinne.